Hello everybody. Let us know about Harlem Renaissance and the Black is Beautiful movement through James Mercer Langston Hughes' poem, I Too. Langston Hughes is an Afro-American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist. He was born at Joplin, Missouri on 1st February 1902. As his parents got separated, he grew up with his maternal grandmother, Mary Patterson Langston, who instilled in her grandson an eternal sense of racial pride. He was one of the earliest pioneers of the literary art form known as jazz poetry. He is called as the poet laureate of the Harlem. He died of prostate cancer on May 22, 1967. The poem, I Too, was published on March 1, 1925 in Survey Graphic. To perceive Langston Hughes, it becomes vital to know about Harlem Renaissance. Now, let us have a quick glance over the origin of Harlem Renaissance and its impact on the society. After World War I, many Afro-Americans began their movement from the farms of the South to the cities of the North. During the brief period of economic prosperity in the 1920s, cities such as Chicago and New York had opportunities luring Afro-Americans from the South with a confidence for an enhanced life. Innovative ideas sparkled due to migration in various fields with vigorous calls for social revolution in major cities across the North. The neighborhood of Harlem in New York City's Manhattan became a rich cultural core. The individualist approach, new trends, and unconventional lifestyles took shape in Harlem with the rapid enhancement of new Afro-American literature. Afro-American writing blossomed in the North America from 1915 to 1929. Afro-American writers fashioned novels, autobiographies, poetry, and political literature. The movement chiseled the modern era of Afro-American writing. It is referred to as the Harlem Renaissance. It is important to understand that the word Renaissance comes from a French word meaning rebirth. Literary and cultural movements that represent cultural rebirths are usually referred to as Renaissance. In such a scenario, Harlem Renaissance was seen as a rebirth of Afro-American arts and culture in America. Here are some of the key figures of Harlem Renaissance: Claude McKay, Countee Cullen, Jessie Redmond Fawcett, Zora Neale Hurston, James Weldon Johnson, Richard Wright. The Harlem Renaissance was propagated along with the jazz music. Jazz developed and flourished in clubs across Chicago and New York during the 1920s. Musicians like Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong became famous figures of the jazz age. The allusion to Black is Beautiful can be identified in the poem I Too. Black is Beautiful movement has witnessed various phases in the history of the African race. The phrase Black is Beautiful was originally endorsed by John Sweatrock, a dentist, physician, and a lawyer in 1858. He propagated that their complexion and texture of hair was what distinguished the Afro-Americans and that made them beautiful. Black is Beautiful as a cultural movement emerged in the United States in the 1960s. It led to a shift from Eurocentric conventionality towards Afrocentric pride. The self-portrait of Mr. Braithwaite in Harlem, taken in 1964, and Sikolo Braithwaite, wife of photographer Kwame Braithwaite's photographs, in 1968 at Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles, dared the massive white standards and celebrated the innate features of the Afro-Americans. An image of grandeza models and founding members of the African Jazz Art Society and studios also depict the veracity of the movement. It was spearheaded by Steve Biko during the late 1960s and 1970s as Black Conscious movement in South Africa. The most popular literary figure to come out of the Harlem Renaissance was Langston Hughes. Hughes' writings intended to amalgamate Black people by inspiring pride in their convention. Let us now watch a short video which renders the poem I Too by Langston Hughes.
Langston, serve us the dinner.
Yes, Langston.
Yes, sir. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table. When company comes, nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America.
I Too by Langston Hughes suggests that patriotism is not limited to any community and thereby becomes an allusive rejoinder to Walt Whitman's I Hear America Singing. He infuses poetry with the musicality of jazz and the sounds and feelings of the blues. Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois are two important political voices of the Afro-Americans in the 19th and 20th centuries. While Washington wanted blacks to prosper through education and stringent effort, overlooking bigotry, Du Bois considered disregarding discrimination would not end it. He became the founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which was a key civil rights organization for Afro-Americans. With the Great Depression of the 1929, the Harlem Renaissance came to a close. Though things changed, the works of the Harlem Renaissance still survive as living voices of the Afro-American experience. Hope the presentation would have enriched the perception about Langston Hughes, Harlem Renaissance and Black is Beautiful movement. Thank you.